In the peaceful city of Lagos, inside a quiet, wealthy neighborhood, where houses looked like they were competing for an award in Most Expensive Mansion of the Year, stood the home of the Okafor family. The house was not just big, it was embarrassingly rich. The gates alone looked like they could stop a small army. Inside the compound stood a magnificent mansion, with glass balconies, shining marble floors, golden chandeliers, and modern Nigerian luxury interior design that made visitors whisper prayers for their own future prosperity. And inside that mansion lived Zikora Okafor. Zikora was 25 years old, a young Nigerian woman whose beauty could make traffic slow down. She had smooth caramel skin, bright playful eyes, and natural hair always tied neatly in a bun that made her look elegant even when she was just eating puff-puff in the kitchen. But beauty was not even her most noticeable quality. Zikora had a mouth that refused to stay quiet. She talked, she joked, she argued, she asked questions nobody wanted to answer, and sometimes she could insult a person so politely that they would say thank you before realizing they had been roasted. Her father, Chief Okafor, loved her deeply. Sometimes he would laugh and tell his wife, "This girl will either become a great lawyer or she will argue with the president one day." Her mother would shake her head, "Or she will argue with her husband every morning." Zikora would quickly respond, "Which husband? The one that has not even proposed yet?" The family would burst into laughter. Life was peaceful, life was sweet, life felt secure, until tragedy knocked on their door. One rainy morning, the mansion that used to be filled with laughter became silent. Chief Okafor had died suddenly after a brief illness. The entire house felt empty. Even the expensive chandeliers seemed dimmer. Zikora's mother cried endlessly. Zikora tried to be strong, but deep inside, she felt like the ground beneath her feet had disappeared. For weeks, relatives came and went. Some came to comfort, some came to observe, and some came for something else entirely. Something ugly, something called inheritance greed. One afternoon, only a few weeks after the burial, 3 of Zikora's uncles arrived at the house. They did not come with sympathy. They came with serious faces and dangerous intentions. They sat in the luxurious living room like judges in a courtroom. The room was quiet, except for the ticking of the expensive wall clock. Zikora entered the room. She noticed something strange. Her uncles were sitting too comfortably. The kind of comfortable people sit when they think they already own the furniture. Her eldest uncle cleared his throat dramatically. "Zikora, we need to discuss something important." Zikora folded her arms. "Uncle, whenever Nigerians say something important, it usually means trouble. So please continue." Her mother gently tapped her. "Zikora, behave yourself." But the uncle ignored the comment and spoke again. "You and your mother must prepare to leave this house." The words dropped like a bomb. For a few seconds, the room became silent. Zikora blinked slowly. "Leave?" Her uncle nodded. "Yes, this house belongs to the family." Zikora frowned. "Exactly, and I am the family." Another uncle leaned forward. "No, you are a female child." Zikora stared at him. He continued proudly, "In our tradition, a daughter cannot inherit her father's property." For a moment, Zikora thought she had heard wrong. Then she laughed. Not a happy laugh, a dangerous laugh. "Wait, let me understand this very well," she said. "So because I did not grow a beard and start answering sir everywhere, I should leave my father's house?" Her uncle frowned. "You are talking too much." Zikora pointed at herself. "Oh, I am just warming up." Her mother whispered nervously, "Zikora, please." But Zikora was already standing up. "Uncle, let me ask you something. When my father was alive, did tradition say I was not his daughter?" The uncles remained silent. She continued, "When he paid my school fees abroad, did tradition complain?" Silence again. "But now that he is gone, suddenly, tradition has woken up from sleep?" One uncle slammed his hand on the table. "You are insulting our culture." Zikora shrugged. "Well, maybe culture should stop behaving like a greedy landlord." Her mother gasped loudly, "Jesus!" But Zecora wasn't finished. "So let me get this straight," she said. "A daughter is good enough to love, good enough to raise, but not good enough to inherit?" Her uncle stood up angrily. "You and your mother must leave this house by tomorrow." Zecora crossed her arms. "Or what?" The uncle pointed at the door. "Or we will throw you out ourselves." The next morning, the uncles returned, and this time they came with men. Real men. Men who looked like they enjoyed carrying furniture while destroying dreams. Boxes were brought out. Suitcases were thrown outside. Zecora watched in disbelief. Her mother cried helplessly. Neighbors watched the drama like it was a live Nollywood movie. One neighbor whispered, "This family matter is hotter than Netflix." Finally, the gates closed behind them. Zecora and her mother stood outside with their bags. The mansion that once belonged to them now stood silent, like a stranger. Her mother wiped her tears. "My daughter, what will we do now?" Zecora looked at the house one last time. Then she took her mother's hand. Her voice was calm, but determined. "Don't worry, Mama. One day, they will regret this." She picked up the suitcase, and together they walked away, not knowing that the road ahead would take Zecora from a wealthy mansion to driving a Keke on the streets, and eventually straight into the path of a billionaire. Zecora and her mother sat quietly inside their new apartment. Well, calling it an apartment was already being generous. It was a tiny, one-room space inside an old building in a crowded neighborhood of Lagos, where generators hummed louder than conversations, and neighbors knew your business before you even woke up. The room had one small bed, one plastic table, one shaky ceiling fan that rotated like it was tired of life. Zecora looked around the room and sighed. Then she looked at her mother. Then she looked around again. Finally she spoke. "Mama?" "Yes, my daughter?" "Please tell me this is a temporary joke." Her mother sighed deeply. "My daughter, this is where we live now." Zecora slowly sat on the bed. The bed made a dangerous creaking sound. She quickly stood up again. "Even the bed is protesting," she said. Her mother couldn't help but laugh a little despite everything. Zecora rubbed her face dramatically. "Just last month we had 5 bathrooms in our house." She looked around the tiny room. "Now our bathroom is outside the building, sharing with 12 neighbors and one aggressive goat." Her mother chuckled softly, but deep down, the situation hurt. Life had changed too quickly. Trying to survive. Luckily, Zecora's mother had a small savings left from before her husband died. That money helped them rent the small room and buy basic things. But the savings were disappearing fast. Food prices were rising. Bills were waiting like hungry lions. And Zecora knew she had to do something. One morning she stood up confidently. "Mama, don't worry. I will start a business." Her mother looked hopeful. "That's my daughter." "What kind of business?" Zecora thought for a moment. Then she snapped her fingers. "Provision shop." Her mother nodded. "That's a good idea." Zecora smiled proudly. "Yes, everybody buys food. Nobody can survive without food." 2 weeks later, Zecora opened a small roadside provision shop. She arranged everything neatly: bread, biscuit, noodles, sardines, soft drinks. The shop was small, but she was proud of it. The first customer arrived, a middle-aged woman with the confident face of someone who liked borrowing things. "Good afternoon, my daughter." "Good afternoon, Ma. I want 2 bread and 1 sardine." Zecora happily packed the items. "That will be 2,000 naira." The woman smiled sweetly. "Ah, my daughter, please write it down. I will pay tomorrow." Zecora hesitated, but the woman looked trustworthy. "Okay, Ma," she wrote it down. The next customer came. "My sister, please give me noodles and egg." "Okay, how much?" 700 naira. The customer smiled. "Please write it down. I will pay later." Zecora blinked. Later? Yes, later apparently became a very popular payment method in the neighborhood. Within 1 week, almost the entire street owed Zecora money. One afternoon she looked at her notebook. Page after page was filled with credit names. She sighed. "Mama." Her mother looked up. "Yes? I have discovered something." "What?" "People in this neighborhood don't use money." Her mother frowned. "What do they use?" "Confidence." Zecora finally lost patience. A customer came again. "My sister, give me bread." Zecora smiled politely. "Cash or confidence?" "What? Are you paying now or adding another chapter to my credit novel?" The woman laughed awkwardly. "My daughter, just write it down." Zecora slowly closed the shop fridge. "No more writing." The woman frowned. "You don't trust me?" Zecora folded her arms. "Madam, if trust was money, I would be a billionaire now." Her mother burst into laughter from inside. Eventually, the truth became clear. The shop was not making profit. In fact, it was slowly destroying their remaining savings. Reluctantly, Zecora closed the business. Just when things seemed bad enough, another problem appeared. Her mother became seriously ill. At first it was small weakness, then constant coughing, then fever. Hospital visits became frequent. The doctor spoke seriously. "She needs proper treatment." Zecora's heart sank. "How much will it cost?" The doctor mentioned the amount. Zecora nearly fainted. Even her ancestors probably gasped. But she stayed strong. She began searching for a job everywhere. Banks, offices, shops, hotels, restaurants. But everywhere she went, the answer was the same. "We will call you." Nobody ever called. One evening, after another long day of rejection, Zecora returned home exhausted. She dropped her bag on the floor and collapsed into a plastic chair. "Mama?" "Yes, my daughter?" "If rejection was a sport, I would already have an Olympic gold medal." Her mother tried to smile. "My daughter, don't give up." Zecora looked at her mother carefully. Despite the sickness, her mother still tried to be strong for her. That moment gave Zecora new determination. She stood up suddenly. "Mama?" "Yes?" "No matter what happens, I will find a way." Her mother nodded slowly. "I know you will." Zecora didn't know it yet, but the strange idea that would change her life was already waiting for her. The Lagos sun, that afternoon, was hot enough to fry an egg on a car bonnet. Zecora was exhausted. After another long day of searching for jobs and receiving the usual Nigerian reply, "We will call you," she entered a Keke tricycle to go home. She sat quietly at the back while the Keke driver navigated through Lagos traffic like a man who had already made peace with danger. Inside the Keke were 3 other passengers who had clearly started a free national discussion about business opportunities. One man said proudly, "I'm telling you, Keke business is profitable. My cousin bought one last year, and now he has 3. Another man nodded. "Yes-o, if you know the right place, you can even rent Keke daily." Zecora's ears immediately stood up, like a radio antenna searching for signal. She leaned forward. "Excuse me, sir. What place?" The driver looked at her through the mirror. "You want to know?" "Yes." "You want to start Keke business?" Zecora shrugged. "Why not?" The driver stared at her. Then he laughed. The passengers laughed. Even the Keke itself seemed to shake with laughter. "Madam," the driver said, "you are a woman." Zecora folded her arms. "And? What will you do with Keke?" She replied calmly, "Drive it." The driver laughed again. "Ah, madam, you are funny." Zecora rolled her eyes. "Is the steering allergic to women?" The passengers burst into laughter. The driver shook his head. "You are serious?" "Very serious." The driver looked impressed by her confidence. Finally, he sighed. "All right, when we reach your stop, I will show you the place." Soon they arrived at a noisy Keke rental park. Dozens of drivers were sitting under a tree, arguing about football, politics, fuel price, and who owed who money. Zecora stepped down confidently and walked toward the owner. The men watched her curiously. "Good afternoon," she said politely. The owner looked up. "Yes? I want to rent a Keke." For 2 seconds the park became quiet. Then, explosion of laughter. One driver slapped his friend's shoulder. "Did she say rent Keke?" Another one shouted, "Maybe she wants to decorate it for wedding." Another driver added, "Madam, go and open salon. Keke no be makeup brush." Zecora stood there calmly. When the laughter finally stopped, she said, "Are you all finished?" The owner wiped tears from laughing. "Madam, you want to drive Keke?" "Yes." The owner shook his head. "This is not a toy." Zecora stepped closer. "Give me the key." The men exchanged looks. One driver whispered, "Give her, let us see the entertainment." The owner sighed and handed her the key. "Okay, if you can drive it properly, I will rent it to you." Zecora climbed into the Keke confidently. She adjusted the mirror, touched the handle, and started the engine. The Keke moved, slowly, smoothly, perfectly. She drove around the compound and returned like a professional driver. The men were stunned. One driver whispered, "This girl drives better than Musa." Musa protested loudly, "Lie, my brake just had emotional problems that day." The owner scratched his head. "Well, I guess you can rent it." Zecora smiled proudly, and just like that, the first female Keke driver in the area was born. The famous female driver. Within days, Zecora became famous. Passengers would see her and shout, "Ah, a lady driver!" Some laughed, some admired her courage, some even took selfies. One passenger entered her Keke and said, "My sister, please drive carefully. My wife is pregnant." Zecora replied, "Sir, relax. The only thing I will deliver today is you to your destination." The passengers laughed loudly. Money started coming in. Not huge money, but enough to pay her mother's hospital bills and buy food. For the first time in months, Zecora felt hopeful again. One afternoon, Zecora was driving through a busy Lagos road. She was happily singing to herself, "Life no balance, but we go balance am." Suddenly, screech! A luxurious Range Rover accidentally hit the side of her Keke. The Keke shook violently. Passengers screamed. One passenger shouted, "Jesus, I am too young to die." The Keke stopped. Zecora jumped down dramatically. "Hey, my Keke!" The Range Rover door opened slowly. Out stepped Benjamin Ebuka. 30 years old, tall, handsome, chocolate-skinned, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than the entire Keke. He was a powerful Nigerian billionaire tycoon. But right now, he looked worried. He quickly walked toward her. "Are you okay?" Zecora held her chest dramatically. "My spirit almost relocated to heaven." Benjamin tried not to laugh. "I'm very sorry. I didn't see you." Zecora pointed angrily at the scratch on the Keke. "Look at this." Benjamin examined the damage. "It's just a small scratch." Zecora gasped loudly. "Small? This Keke and I have been through emotional struggles together." Benjamin burst into laughter. Her dramatic personality was unbelievable. "Please get me your account number," he said. "I will pay for repairs." Zecora reluctantly gave it. In her mind she thought, maybe 30,000, maybe 50,000. Suddenly her phone beeped. Alert. 1 million naira credit. Zecora froze. She stared at the screen, then screamed. 1 million naira? The passengers jumped in shock. "Oga, what did you press?" Benjamin smiled. "Use the money to repair the Keke and take care of yourself." Zecora shook her head. No, this is too much." Benjamin shrugged. "It's fine." Then he asked softly, "Can I have your number? I want to check if you're okay later." Zecora hesitated, then she gave it. Benjamin returned to his Range Rover. But before driving away, he looked at her again. Something about this dramatic Keke girl was unforgettable. As he drove off, Zecora stared at her phone again. 1 million naira, she whispered. Then she looked at her Keke. "Keke, today you hit jackpot." She hugged the Keke. Passengers burst into laughter. But neither Zecora nor Benjamin knew that this small accident was the beginning of a love story that would change both their lives forever. When Benjamin Ebuka finally drove away from the accident scene in his shining Range Rover, he expected his day to return to normal. After all, he was a billionaire. His schedule was packed with serious things: business meetings, investment calls, property deals worth hundreds of millions of naira. But something very strange happened. As he drove toward his company headquarters in Victoria Island, Lagos, his mind kept replaying the same scene. A dramatic girl shouting, "My spirit almost relocated to heaven." Benjamin suddenly laughed inside his car. His driver looked confused in the mirror. "Sir?" Benjamin cleared his throat. "Nothing." But a few minutes later he laughed again. The driver looked even more confused. Did my boss just laugh because of Lagos traffic, he wondered? Benjamin finally arrived at his office. The building itself was pure luxury. Tall glass walls, Italian marble floors, gold-trimmed furniture, modern Nigerian interior design that screamed, "Serious money lives here." His staff greeted him respectfully. "Good afternoon, sir." "Good afternoon, sir." Benjamin nodded professionally, but his mind was still somewhere else, inside a Keke. He entered the boardroom, where executives were already waiting. One of the managers began presenting financial reports. "Sir, regarding the expansion of the Abuja project," Benjamin suddenly interrupted. "Have you ever seen a woman driving Keke?" The room became silent. Everyone looked at each other. The manager blinked. "Sir, excuse me?" Benjamin quickly coughed. "Nothing, continue." But the meeting was already ruined. For the next 30 minutes Benjamin stared at the table, thinking about one thing: Zikora, her boldness, her humor, her dramatic complaints, and the way she hugged the Keke after receiving 1 million naira. Benjamin shook his head and smiled. This girl is unbelievable. That evening Benjamin returned to his luxurious mansion in Ikoyi. The house looked like something from a Billionaire magazine. Massive glass walls, a floating staircase, huge chandeliers sparkling like diamonds, cream-colored furniture arranged perfectly in a modern Nigerian luxury design. Yet despite all the beauty, the mansion felt strangely quiet. Benjamin sat on the couch holding his phone. He stared at the number Zikora gave him. He hesitated. Then he finally dialed it. Meanwhile, in Zikora's apartment. Inside the small apartment, Zikora and her mother were eating dinner. Rice and stew. Her mother looked healthier already, thanks to the medical treatment. Suddenly Zikora's phone rang. She glanced at the number. Unknown. She picked it up. "Hello?" A familiar voice spoke. "Hello, Zikora." She froze. "Aga Range Rover?" Benjamin burst into laughter. "Yes, the same criminal driver." Her mother looked curious. "Who is that?" Zikora whispered. "The billionaire who almost turned me into road decoration." Benjamin laughed again. "I called to check if you are okay." Zikora leaned back dramatically. "Ah, I survived, but my Keke is still attending trauma therapy." Benjamin laughed so loudly he nearly dropped his phone. "You are very funny." "I know." They talked for a few minutes, but the conversation flowed so easily it felt like they had known each other for years. Finally Benjamin said, "I should let you rest." Zikora replied, "Okay, but next time please drive carefully. My Keke does not have insurance for billionaire romance accidents." "I will remember that." They hung up, but both of them were smiling. Daily phone calls from that night. The calls became regular. Sometimes they talked in the morning, sometimes at night. Sometimes they chatted for hours. One night Benjamin asked, "So how many passengers did you carry today?" Zikora sighed dramatically. "Too many." "What happened?" "One man entered my Keke and started giving relationship advice." Benjamin laughed. "What did he say?" "He said a woman must always obey her husband." Benjamin chuckled. "And what did you say?" "I told him I am still obeying traffic lights first, before obeying husband." Benjamin laughed loudly. Every conversation with her made him happy. And slowly, without realizing it, Benjamin began to look forward to her voice every day. One evening Benjamin finally said something unexpected. "Zikora, would you like to have dinner with me?" She nearly dropped her phone. "Dinner?" "Yes." "Like normal dinner?" Benjamin smiled. "Yes." She hesitated. "Wait, this is not a business meeting?" "No." "Or motivational seminar?" Benjamin laughed. "No, just dinner." Zikora sighed. "Well, since you already paid my Keke hospital bill, I guess I can come." Benjamin laughed. "I'll send you the address." 2 nights later, Zikora arrived at one of the most luxurious restaurants in Victoria Island. The place looked like a palace. Crystal lights, gold decorations, soft romantic music playing. Waiters moved around like professional dancers. Zikora stood at the entrance staring. She whispered to herself, "Even the chairs here look richer than me." Benjamin stood up when he saw her, and for a moment, he forgot how to breathe. Zikora looked stunning. Her simple, elegant dress highlighted her natural beauty. She walked toward him, Benjamin smiled warmly. You look beautiful. Zecora sat down and shrugged. Thank you, but please remember I am still a Keke driver. Benjamin laughed. They ordered food, but most of the evening was filled with laughter. Benjamin asked, So why exactly did you start driving Keke? Zecora told him everything. Her father's death, her greedy uncles, their poverty, her sick mother. Benjamin listened quietly. When she finished, he looked at her with admiration. You're very strong. Zecora shrugged. Life didn't give me a choice. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Something warm and gentle filled the air between them, something new, something powerful. Romance was beginning to grow. Benjamin smiled softly. You know, that accident might be the luckiest accident of my life. Zecora laughed. Well, good, because my Keke deserves appreciation. They both laughed again. But deep inside, both of them knew something had started. Something beautiful, something unexpected. A love story between a billionaire and the dramatic Keke girl who changed his world. She shook her head. Olga Benjamin, I still don't understand why rich people decorate food like artwork. Benjamin raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She pointed at the plate. This small rice in the middle of the plate, is it shy? Benjamin burst into laughter. You are impossible. A few people at nearby tables turned to look at them because Benjamin rarely laughed this loudly in public. After the laughter faded, Benjamin suddenly became thoughtful. He looked at Zecora seriously. Zecora, I want to ask you something. She narrowed her eyes. That serious tone means trouble. Benjamin smiled. No trouble. Then he said calmly, I want you to work for me. Zecora blinked. Work? Yes. As what? Benjamin leaned forward slightly. My personal assistant. For a moment, Zecora just stared at him. Then she looked behind her. Then she looked under the table. Benjamin frowned. What are you doing? I'm checking if there is another Zecora here. Benjamin laughed again. No, I mean you. She shook her head slowly. Olga, yesterday I was driving Keke in traffic. Yes. And today you want me to sit in a billionaire office? Yes. She raised both hands. This is how Nollywood movies start. Benjamin chuckled. You are smart, organized, and fearless. I need someone like that. Zecora hesitated. But I don't have experience working in a big office. Benjamin shrugged. You will learn. She looked at him carefully. You're serious? Very serious. Zecora slowly smiled. Then I accept. Benjamin lifted his glass. To my new assistant. She lifted hers too. To the boss who crashed into my Keke. They both laughed. 3 days later, Zecora stood in front of Benjamin's company headquarters. The building was tall, elegant, and made almost entirely of shining glass. She whispered to herself, even the building looks like it pays taxes. Inside, the office interior was breathtaking. Polished marble floors, gold-trimmed desks, modern Nigerian luxury interior design everywhere. Employees walked around in expensive suits, carrying tablets and files. Zecora walked through the lobby carefully. She whispered, If I break anything here, I will have to sell my Keke. When she entered Benjamin's office floor, employees immediately noticed her. One secretary whispered to another, Who is she? Another staff member replied, I don't know, but the boss personally brought her here. Eyes followed her everywhere. Whispers started spreading. Office gossip begins. Inside the staff lounge, 2 workers were already gossiping. I heard she used to drive Keke. What? Yes. Another worker joined the conversation. So how did she become the boss assistant? One woman folded her arms suspiciously. Maybe she used a special method. Another replied sarcastically, maybe she hypnotized him. They all laughed. But deep inside, jealousy had already started growing. Meanwhile, inside Benjamin's office, Zecora was already making the place lively. She walked around examining everything. Boss, this chair alone can pay my house rent for 5 years. Benjamin smiled. You'll get used to it. She sat in the chair and spun around once. If my Keke drivers see me now, they will faint. Benjamin laughed. Working together quickly became fun. Zecora organized his schedule, handled calls, managed meetings, and somehow she always found a way to make Benjamin laugh. One afternoon, Benjamin was stressed from business reports. Zecora walked in. "Boss, why are you looking like someone who just saw fuel price increase?" Benjamin sighed. "Too many problems today." Zecora shrugged. "Then you need laughter therapy." "What's that?" "Talking to me." Benjamin burst into laughter again. Romance begins to grow. Weeks passed. The connection between them grew stronger. Sometimes Benjamin took her shopping at luxury boutiques. One day she entered a store and saw the price of a handbag. She nearly fainted. 2 million naira? Benjamin laughed. "It's normal." Zecora shook her head. "For that price this bag should also cook soup." Benjamin laughed so loudly that other shoppers turned to look. Enemies begin to plot. But inside the office, not everyone was happy. 2 senior staff members were sitting inside an office, discussing quietly. "This girl is getting too close to the boss. Yes, if she stays here long, she might influence him." The woman narrowed her eyes. "We must find a way to remove her." They both smiled wickedly. Trouble was coming. One evening Benjamin invited Zecora to his mansion in Ikoyi. When she arrived, she stood at the gate in shock. The mansion looked like a royal palace. Glass walls, huge swimming pool, golden lights glowing beautifully. Inside, the modern luxury design was breathtaking. She slowly walked through the living room. Zecora was sitting comfortably on the couch, her legs folded under her. She looked around the mansion again and shook her head. "Benjamin?" "Yes?" "If my uncles could see where I am sitting now, they would faint, wake up, and faint again." Benjamin laughed. "They deserve it." She smiled. For a moment they sat quietly, but Benjamin's face slowly became serious. He was staring at her in a way that made Zecora slightly nervous. She raised an eyebrow. "Olga, why are you looking at me like someone who wants to announce election results?" Benjamin chuckled softly. "No, I just need to say something important." Zecora leaned forward dramatically. "Should I sit properly?" "Yes." "Should I hold my breath?" Benjamin laughed. "No." She sighed. "Okay, talk. My heart is ready." Benjamin took a deep breath. Then he looked directly into her eyes. "Zecora, do you remember the day I crashed into your Keke?" She crossed her arms. "How can I forget? That was the day my Keke almost became history." Benjamin smiled softly. "That day changed my life." Zecora blinked. "What do you mean?" Benjamin spoke quietly. "From the moment you jumped out of that Keke shouting that your spirit almost relocated to heaven, I couldn't stop thinking about you." Zecora laughed. "That was a serious situation." "I know," Benjamin said gently. "But that moment, I realized something." He moved closer to her. "I liked you immediately." Zecora's smile slowly faded into surprise. Benjamin continued. "I admired your courage, your humor, your strength." He held her hand softly. "Zecora, I think I fell in love with you from the first day I saw you." For a moment the room became completely silent. Zecora stared at him. Her heart was beating fast. She whispered softly, "You fell in love? The day you crashed my Keke?" Benjamin nodded. "Yes." Zecora shook her head slowly. "Olga Benjamin." "Yes?" "You are a very strange billionaire." Benjamin laughed. "But it's true." She looked at him carefully. Then she smiled gently. "Good." Benjamin frowned slightly. "Good?" "Yes." "Why?" Zecora squeezed his hand softly. "Because I fell in love with you too." Benjamin froze. "You did?" "Yes." She leaned closer. "But don't let it enter your head too much." Benjamin laughed with relief. For a moment they simply stared at each other. The air between them felt warmer, deeper, more intense. Then suddenly, thunder rumbled outside. Rain began falling heavily against the glass windows of the mansion. Zecora looked toward the window. "Ah, Lagos rain has started." Benjamin smiled. "Looks like you're not leaving anytime soon." She shrugged playfully. "Traffic will be terrible anyway." The rain continued pouring. Inside the quiet mansion, the atmosphere felt even more intimate. Benjamin gently touched her cheek. "Zecora, Yes, you have changed my life. Her voice softened. And you changed mine too. Slowly, he leaned closer. Their lips met in a soft, emotional kiss. The kiss deepened as their feelings poured out. The rain outside fell harder, like music playing for their moment. Benjamin lifted her gently and carried her upstairs. Zikora laughed softly. Ah, Billionaire kidnapping. Relax. You are safe. Inside his bedroom, the space was elegant and warm, with soft lights and luxurious decor. They kissed again, their emotions overflowing after weeks of growing love. That night, they held each other close, sharing deep affection and intimacy as the rain continued falling outside the mansion. The next morning, sunlight slowly entered the room through the large glass windows. Zikora opened her eyes slowly. For a moment, she looked confused. Then she realized where she was. She looked beside her. Benjamin was sleeping peacefully. His arm was wrapped around her gently. Zikora smiled softly. She whispered to herself, "So this is how billionaires sleep." Benjamin slowly opened his eyes. "Good morning," she laughed. "Good morning, Mr. Range Rover." He pulled her closer. "You're not escaping yet." She laughed. "I wasn't planning to." A few weeks later, life returned to normal at the office. But something strange began happening. One morning, Zikora was organizing files when suddenly the room started spinning. She grabbed the desk. "Whoa!" Benjamin noticed immediately. "Zikora, are you okay?" She forced a smile. "Yes, maybe I just skipped breakfast." But the dizziness continued. A few days later, she began feeling nauseous. Her friend at the office looked at her suspiciously. "Zikora?" "Yes?" "Have you checked something?" "What?" Her friend whispered dramatically. "Pregnancy." Zikora froze. "Ah, don't say that kind of thing." But the thought stayed in her mind. Later that day, she bought a pregnancy test. Back in her apartment, she stared at the small test nervously. "Please God, let this not be what I'm thinking." A few minutes later, she looked at the result. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened slowly. Jesus! The test was positive. Zikora sat quietly on the edge of her bed, still staring at the pregnancy test in her hand. Two bold lines, clear, undeniable. Her heart was beating like a drum. "Pregnant," she whispered slowly, "with Benjamin's child." She placed her hand gently on her stomach. For a moment she smiled, but the smile slowly faded into worry. "What if he thinks I planned this?" she muttered. "What if he thinks the Keke girl trapped the billionaire?" Zikora stood up and started pacing around the small apartment. Her mother noticed her restless behavior. "My daughter, what is wrong with you? You have been walking up and down like a goat that lost its way." Zikora stopped. "Mama." "Yes? I have something to tell you." Her mother sat down carefully. "What is it?" Zikora took a deep breath. "Mama, I'm pregnant." For 3 seconds the room became silent. Then her mother gasped. "Pregnant?" Zikora nodded nervously. "Yes." Her mother leaned forward quickly. "Is it that billionaire boy?" Zikora nodded again. "Yes." Her mother stared at her for a moment. Then suddenly she began laughing. Zikora blinked. "Mama, this is not comedy." Her mother wiped her tears from laughing. "My daughter, relax." "Relax?" "Yes. That man clearly loves you." Zikora sighed. "I hope so." The next day Zikora went to Benjamin's office, but she was nervous the entire time. Benjamin noticed immediately. Inside his luxurious office with its modern glass walls and expensive furniture, he watched her carefully. "Zikora." "Yes, boss?" "Why are you looking like someone who just saw NEPA bring a ₦1 billion bill?" She forced a small smile. "Nothing." Benjamin stood up and walked closer. "You know you cannot hide things from me." Zikora sighed deeply. "Benjamin, I need to tell you something." His face became serious. "What is it?" She hesitated for a moment, then finally said it. "I'm pregnant." For a second Benjamin froze, completely frozen. Zikora's heart dropped immediately. This is it, she thought. He's angry. He's shocked. But suddenly, Benjamin laughed. Not a small laugh, a big happy laugh. Zikora blinked. "You're laughing?" Benjamin grabbed her shoulders gently. Zikora, this is wonderful. Her eyes widened. You're not angry? Angry? He shook his head. Why would I be angry? Zikora shrugged nervously. Because you're a billionaire and I'm a former Keke driver. Benjamin smiled softly. And the former Keke driver is the woman I love. Zikora's eyes filled with emotion. Benjamin held her hands gently. I'm happy we're having a child. Then he added playfully, besides, our baby will have a great story. Zikora laughed. What story? Benjamin smiled. That his parents met because his father crashed into his mother's Keke. They both burst into laughter. But news travels very fast in Nigeria. Soon, Zikora's uncles heard the shocking news. The same uncles who threw her out. Now, they suddenly arrived at her apartment, smiling like politicians during elections. My dear niece, Zikora crossed her arms immediately. Who? One uncle laughed awkwardly. You know, family. Zikora shook her head. Ah, now I remember. You people are the ones who said, I'm just a female child. They looked uncomfortable. Another uncle cleared his throat. Well, tradition sometimes changes. Zikora laughed loudly. Oh, really? Benjamin stepped forward calmly. The uncles immediately recognized him. Their smiles grew wider. Ah, Mr. Benjamin, our future in-law. Zikora raised an eyebrow. Future in-law, she pointed at them. You people should greet tradition first. They looked confused. What do you mean? Zikora replied firmly. Tradition said I have no rights in the family. She opened the door. So please go and ask tradition for food. Then she closed the door in their faces. Benjamin laughed loudly. I like your style. Zikora shrugged. They started it. Months later, Benjamin and Zikora held a beautiful wedding. The ceremony was elegant and luxurious. Crystal lights, beautiful decorations, modern Nigerian interior designs everywhere. Guests whispered about the unusual love story. A billionaire and a former Keke driver. Benjamin smiled proudly beside Zikora. Soon after, their baby was born. A beautiful baby boy. Benjamin held the child carefully. This boy is lucky. Zikora smiled. Why? Benjamin laughed. Because he has the strongest mother in Lagos. Zikora teased him. And the most careless driver father. Benjamin laughed loudly. Their love story had begun with an accident. But it ended with something much more beautiful. A family. A future. And proof that sometimes, the road of life can take a girl from driving a Keke to owning the heart of a billionaire. Never underestimate anyone because of their situation today. Life can change quickly, and the person people laugh at today may become the person everyone admires tomorrow. Determination, courage, and kindness can turn even the most unexpected accident into the beginning of a beautiful destiny. If this story touched your heart, like and subscribe for more of Billionaire's romance story.